When your income varies, you are operating in a state of permanent uncertainty on one axis of your financial life. The month might be strong. It might be thin. If you are a freelancer, the client pipeline determines it. If you are a trader, the market does. If you run a product or a small business, conversion rates and churn and timing conspire in ways you can model but never fully predict. If you drive parcels or take shifts through a platform, the work is there until it isn't. You cannot fix that axis. What you can fix is the other one. Fixing your expenses, genuinely, deliberately, structurally, is one of the most powerful things a variable income person can do for themselves. Not because it is glamorous advice, it isn't, but because it transforms the nature of the problem you are actually solving. The asymmetry you live in. A salaried employee lives inside a financial structure where income is the constant and expenses are the variable. Their income arrives on a schedule. Their task is to spend less of it than they receive. This is the model that most financial advice is written for. The budget as an allocation exercise applied to a known quantity. Variable income earners live the inversion. Expenses are largely fixed by external forces. Rent does not negotiate with a slow month. Subscriptions do not pause because a client is late. Food and transport do not adjust to a thin quarter. Income is the thing that moves, sometimes generously, sometimes not at all. This asymmetry means that the standard advice, budget your income, save the difference, is answering a question you are not asking. You cannot budget income you cannot predict. What you can do is take control of the one side of the equation that actually responds to your decisions. What fixing your expenses actually does. When you fix your expenses at a deliberate level, not arbitrary austerity but a conscious floor, several things change at once. First, you establish a survivability threshold. You know exactly what it costs to keep your life and your operation running. That number becomes the baseline against which everything else is measured. A month where income exceeds the floor is a month where you are building. A month where it doesn't tell you precisely how much you are drawing down and for how long you can sustain it. Uncertainty does not disappear, but it becomes bounded. You stop asking, "Am I okay?" and start asking, "How long is my runway?" which is a question you can actually answer. Second, you decouple your lifestyle from your income events. This is harder than it sounds. When a strong month arrives, a good run of trades, a large contract payment, a product launch that converts well, the psychological pressure to expand is real. The spending wants to match the earning. But for a variable income person, a strong month is not a new baseline. It is a deposit against the months that will be quieter. Fixing expenses at a level below your average income and holding that line through the peaks as well as the troughs is how you convert volatility into resilience over time. Third, it changes your relationship with risk. When your floor is low and your runway is long, you can afford to wait. You can turn down work that doesn't fit. You can hold a position longer. You can take the time a new project needs rather than forcing it to revenue before it's ready. The variable income person with fixed, controlled expenses and meaningful reserves is operating from a position of optionality. The one with expanded expenses and a thin buffer is perpetually reactive, making decisions under pressure that erode both returns and judgment. The contrast worth drawing. The salaried earner's financial challenge is fundamentally about allocation, how to distribute a known, stable resource across competing needs and goals. The frameworks designed for this are genuinely useful for it. Monthly budgets, savings ratios, debt repayment schedules. These tools assume income stability because they were built by and for people who have it. Variable income earners are not doing a worse version of this. They are doing a different thing, inside a different structure, facing a different primary risk. The salaried person's main financial threat is unexpected expense. Redundancy, a medical bill, a broken boiler. The variable income person faces all of that, and also the possibility that the income itself becomes irregular or contracts. This means the primary instrument of financial health is not the budget, but the reservoir. Not how do I allocate this month's income, but how large is my buffer, and how long does it last at my current floor? Fixed expenses are what make the reservoir calculable. Without them, the question has no clean answer. In practice, None of this requires extreme frugality or permanent sacrifice. It requires honesty about the distinction between fixed and discretionary expenses and a commitment to keeping the fixed portion at a level the floor of your income can sustain, not the ceiling. It means reviewing regularly what has quietly become fixed: subscriptions, services, commitments that were affordable in a strong period and now sit in the budget as though they are non-negotiable. It means resisting the lifestyle creep that strong income events invite. It means being deliberate about which increases in expenditure represent genuine investment in your operation or your well-being, and which are simply the expansion that income temporarily permits. The goal is not to spend as little as possible. It is to ensure that your fixed obligations are low enough that your variable income, whatever it turns out to be in any given period, can reliably cover them, with enough remaining to build the reserves that make the whole structure durable. The principle underneath there is a deeper logic here that extends beyond personal finance. Variable income life is, at its core, about managing the relationship between certainty and uncertainty. You cannot manufacture certainty on the income side. What you can do is introduce certainty where it is available, and your expenses are one of the few places where it genuinely is. Fix what you can fix. Build your reserves from the surplus that volatility periodically delivers. Hold the floor when the lean periods come. The variable income person who has done this is not financially precarious despite their irregular earnings. They have simply built their stability from a different foundation than the one the standard advice assumes.